Okay, hello there. Well, we are going to be looking at graphing with Google Sheets because they've recently changed their algorithm for creating XY scatter plots and has made it much more difficult, unfortunately. So let's walk you through how we can do it now. So we have some data that we have from a friction lab. We're going to select the data. We want to have a graph of kinetic friction on the y-axis and normal force on the x-axis. Remember, you list the x-axis column first. So let's go ahead and do that. Then I'm going to go Insert Chart, and here comes my chart. Unfortunately, Google Sheets thinks that we have two different data series here instead of an XY type of relationship, so we're going to have to fix that. The first thing you want to do is go down to Scatter Graph. And then the next thing is, and this is what's going to help us most, is click on this, the idea that we're going to use column E as labels. So now it's at least put this E column along the x-axis, and we're going to fix, that looks odd the way it has 5.7 and 10.6. We're going to fix that in a moment. We don't need to use the row for as headers because we're going to be labeling our axes here in just a minute. Okay, so getting closer, still not great. Let's go to Customize. First thing we want to do is go to Chart and Axis Title. Let's get our axes labeled. So remember that this is going to be kinetic friction on the y-axis. So we're going to take kinetic friction and we're going to move that out front. We're going to say kinetic friction versus the normal force, not and, because we don't have two different series. So the kinetic friction is going to be what's the y-axis and normal force on the x-axis. So let's go ahead and get the other axes labeled too. We got a horizontal axis title, so this is going to be normal force in newtons. And then we're going to have the vertical axis of kinetic force, also in newtons. Okay, now we're looking better. Let's go down to series now. So whenever we're doing a graph in physics, we're going to want to have a trend line. So let's go ahead and hit trend line. That's good. We get a nice little best fit curve. This particular one looks like the trend is linear, so that's good. You have other choices that you could choose from. The two most common in physics are going to be power series and linear. We really won't be using many of these this particular year. So we're, oops, I got rid of value. I didn't need that. Sorry. So trend line and then label. We need the equation to show up. So we go use equation under label, and now we've got 1.223x plus 0.8. So at least we've got the equation. Now what's weird is this can't be right. So think about this, right? You go from 0 up to 1.3 in the y direction, and then you go from 0 to 5.7. So the rise over the run would be the slope, but that would be like 1.3 divided by 5.7, which is definitely not 1.23. It's more like around 0.22 something or other. So, so this can't be right. So we got to fix that. Let's keep going. We don't have to deal with a legend. The legend is fine. Here's how you can modify that. But then horizontal axis. So here's the problem. The treat labels as text. It thinks that this is just a label like red, blue, green instead of actual numbers. So let's click that. And now we are back in business. Now it thinks those 5, 10, and 15 are actually numbers, and then it does the scaling appropriately and gives us a graph. Oh, that looks a lot better. The slope is now 0.237, which of course represents the coefficient of kinetic friction because it's the kinetic force divided by the normal force. So that looks good. And then vertical axis. Oh, one other thing you could do, sometimes with a graph, it doesn't automatically zero it out and you want it to, so you can specify a minimum value for that. So you can do that there, and you can do it down here as well on the vertical axis. For this graph, it didn't make a difference, but it will maybe in future graphs. You can also add grid lines if you want to, like if you want to have another extra grid line in there just to make it look nice. So that's the essentials. Now you've got a good looking graph, and then you can just copy it and paste it into your lab document, and you're good to go.